Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of March 6th through the 12th, and we've got a full moon this week at 17 degrees Virgo, so on the Virgo Pisces axis, and it's in a T square with Mars and Gemini, and also a trine with Uranus. And then we also got two of those longer term things that I talked about last week extensively changing this week. The Saturn is going to go into Pisces, and the Jupiter conjunct Chiron and Vesta this week, and a few other things to talk about. So first off, this is a service that I offer for free, the Astrological Winds channel, on YouTube every week. So if you have a YouTube account, become a follower, please, and turn on your notifications, and then you'll know when it's posted or when the vlog's posted every week, which is usually Monday. And then also it is available on all kinds of podcasts. So, it's, if you'd rather, it's, you really don't have to look at the screen. I'm really just talking to the camera. So the podcast gives you the ability to, just hear it in an audio format, maybe in ways that are a little bit more flexible, and then looking at the screen. So just look it up on your favorite podcast, and do me all a favor, you guys. Like, it's a free service, so if you could pass it on to somebody else that you know who might be interested in it and let them check it out, that would really be helpful. That's the way I've been getting the blog to grow, and I really appreciate your help in doing that. So and then otherwise, the best way you can help me out is I am a professional astrologer. So if you need a reading done, just contact me at mattHue823@gmail.com, and I'll give you more contact stuff at the end, and try to get some of that information more accessible on the screen soon too. Like I said, two big switches this week, which I don't really want to talk about too much. Again, if you missed last week's blog, go back to that one, because that's mainly about the monthly more than last week, and because there was some two really big changes and another relatively big event. So two of the three of those happened this week, when Saturn goes into Pisces on Tuesday, and then Jupiter is conjunct Chiron and Vesta on Sundays or Saturday, Sunday next weekend. So I talked extensively about them in the blog last week, and I don't want to waste the minutes on this week's blog too much on them. I'm just going to touch base on them more and focus more on the full moon and next a dynamic day next Saturday too, and a couple other little things. The full moon is on Tuesday. So it's at 17 degrees Virgo, and if you may or may not know, full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. So it's like the moon in Virgo, therefore, would be opposite the sun in Pisces, the sign that Virgo is opposite, and they are on the same axis. That's called the service axis, the Virgo Pisces axis, and they are two very different energies. So the opposition between the sun in Pisces and the moon in Virgo is very, very significant, and that's what we're going to be seeing, is that moon in Virgo actually is the part, usually the moon's the emotional, moon is the emotional side, but the moon in Virgo is really wanting security through having something as a set book of rules or procedures to go by. It wants something methodical, it wants something practical, it wants something that's reliable, and it knows it's going to get a result from. Virgo is all about trying to get, it's an earth sign, so it wants to get some concrete results, and it's very diligent, it's very meticulous, it's very detail oriented at getting that, and it's very ingenious too. Virgo energy is very, very like, will take care of all these little details, and has the ability, not only the ingenuity of the mind, but the connection of the mind and the hands and tools between them, and the ability to use those things for practical purposes, for things that guarantee some kind of what would be called success, and usually in very practical terms. So it wants to know what the procedure is. It wants to know what the rule book is. It has a serious attitude about that stuff, and is therefore, like, willing to work, and is willing to serve others to get what it wants. That's how Virgo is, this giving kind of energy. Now, the negative side of that Virgo energy is to be, because of that need deeply and emotionally to have that, set way of doing things in order to feel secure. Virgo can get very critical, can get very judgmental of others, and therefore really, turn this, like, get into this nitpicking kind of energy that can really wear on others. And so that's really challenging for Virgo when the sun is in Pisces, because the sun in Pisces is the opposite of that Virgo energy. Now, the funny thing is Pisces as an energy, as a sign in the zodiac, has a lot more closeness, or a lot more in common with the moon, actually, than the sun. But the sun is what's in Pisces here. And so Pisces energy is, it wants to connect things together. It's a unifying energy underneath everything. So it's nebulous. It wears barriers down, and has nothing to do with precision, which is what Virgo wants. It's not like really so interested in like those details. It's more interested in an emotional connection, and in a spiritual connection, in an inspired, abstract kind of connection of what's going on. So it's feeling its way through things rather than like thinking in a detailed way. So you can see how this creates the conflict of this full moon. It doesn't have that seriousness that Virgo wants. It doesn't have a set of rules. It kind of just feels its way through life, and that's where our motivation and our drive is when the sun is in Pisces, and that's this Virgo moon is up against. Now, what's interesting about it is it's in, we've got a few aspects going on with it, and so it's a Virgo full moon, so it's ruled by Mercury. That means, okay, and Mercury is not really in great condition right now. It's in Pisces, which traditionally is weak, so it's actually in the sign that the sun is in. And Mercury, all about being like the mind and precision, like I said, rules Virgo. When it's in Pisces, it's all that stuff once again becomes, driven by the emotions and by sensitivity to the environment and others, and feeling things through. And so it's kind of almost coming from really what is an irrational place. So it's like the ruler of the full moon, which would normally be more aligned with that Virgo energy, is actually falling into the same energy of the sun sign of the chart. And what's interesting about that is they're making this mutable. They're both mutable signs, a mutable T-square to Mars in Gemini, which Mars has been in Gemini for quite a while, because that's where the retrograde had gone through, and it's still working its way back. It's back to about 17 degrees now, or in those higher degrees, teens range. And so it's in this square to the Virgo and Pisces axis. And even right there, there's like conflict right there between Mars's energy with the Virgo Pisces axis. Like Mars is like a very active and let's go do this and put a lot of umph into it kind of sign. And when it gets into Pisces and Virgo, it's forced to slow down for different reasons, and here it is in this square to both the lights. So it's, we're going to feel it energetically, like we want to do something about the situations that we're in and trying to find this balance in this full moon. But it's going to be confusing because it's like, it's like Mars is like in a sign that's also dualistic. And in between the full moon, which are at odds with one another, so two sides of duality. So it's Mars in Gemini is gonna just kind of go back and forth on the full moon and not really help out. Just, like with Mercury and Pisces, is kind of gonna confuse us. I think like the energy of this full moon is gonna be pretty confusing. It's gonna have a lot of like confusion in it. There may be like, some actions that we take that are impulsive or driven by irrational emotions that are going to run into, tension and stress right away. May find ourselves a little bit out on an island with stuff, unable to really explain, quite where we're coming from, those kind of things. But what's interesting, there is this trine for the moon to Uranus and the sun sextiling Uranus, which is actually exact today on Monday, so it's already kicking in, that shows that, there may be some innovative solutions that may come up very quickly to help us resolve some of this. This can kind of maybe at least bring some more creativity into the situation and maybe give us some insights that like are innovative in the way that we can connect that Pisces and Virgo energy together so that, both sides get their needs met. And so that, so we look for like, sudden new information that may be brought to you by others or through different experiences or through information that you get, and bring some kind of new opportunity up in relation that to the full moon and this confusion of going back and forth and really not, having clarity and feeling like emotionally disturbed about maybe not having all the details, and then maybe on the other side feeling like, that's a little bit too, critical and small thinking and narrow thinking, and to just like maybe focus on something that's like the bigger picture. But yeah, I think that the trine to the Uranus and the sextile to the Uranus can show us some ways of finding our way out of that box and working with some of the things that we see. Then we can maybe take some of the Mars energy and use that to motivate on these new ideas. Use the curiosity of the Gemini Mars to like take some of that stuff in and then use it to motivate and move forward and maybe find some kind of balance, some kind of way of bringing this bigger vision that Pisces has that's based on more of our ideals and the ability of maybe the moon in Virgo to take like the talents of being able to look at things and shape things and be very detailed and meticulous about how we're going to get something that's an ideal into a concrete reality that's helping serve us and helping serve others too, which is what that axis is all about. So I don't, I think it may be like it can like have a lot of confusion even with the Uranus there. Like the Uranus may give us a lot of ideas and stuff, but like a lot of the stuff may still be not like quite ready to fit well into reality, like still trying to find their right slot. And so also on Tuesday, that's when Saturn goes into Pisces. And I talked about that for a while last week, so I really need you guys to go back to that if you missed it. But it really is a big change. It's, going to be for 2 to 3 years for the most part, the most of the next 3 years. And just like, once again, like, Pisces, Saturn had a nice run for 5 years in two signs it really likes, Aquarius and Capricorn before that. And now it's going into a sign where structure and form, which is what Saturn is all about, is going to be eroded by the waters of Pisces, by this like nebulous energy that erodes things. It's watery, and I think, in society, it'll wear away at a lot of the structure of society, both physically and on other levels too, abstractly, with the ideas and things that have driven society, especially in the age of Pisces. So it's like, but you may also see like a lot of power grabbing by Piscean energy, by like this us versus them kind of energy, that we've been seeing a lot of, frankly, and I think this is like where authorities, law, order are really trying to push their own ideals onto society, and it can create a lot of tension, a lot of distress, a lot of like opposing views that actually are eroding the society from the inside out, philosophically and value-wise. And then in the structures too, like I said last week, I mean, I think we're going to see like higher sea levels eroding away structures on the coast. I think we're going to see just a lot more water even coming out of the sky, and like and finding out that a lot of our infrastructure wasn't made to take the amount of water that comes out when there are storms now. And just seeing the continuing like decay and breaking away and softening of a lot of the structure of society. But like I said, go back to last week, talk about that a lot more. On Friday, it's a very interesting little thing on Friday. It's not really kind of a little, but it's Pluto is square Juno, the asteroid Juno, and at the same time, Mercury is on the midpoint of the two of them. And Juno represents partnerships really on a bigger level. So this shows that there's like power trips and struggles and stuff in certain partnerships in our lives, most likely, and just this energy of like, the Mercury going there of like using words to try to coerce one another or push on one another, like a lot of disagreements, argumentative kind of energy, disputes, power struggles, and mental kind of games with people that, that relationships have broken down to on that level, and they're struggling through. So that may not be the easiest thing this week and next week, to see, because there'll be an orb for a little bit to see that going on. And then on Saturday is that exact Jupiter conjunct Chiron, conjunct Vesta. And once again, that was one of the main things I talked about last week in the monthly. It's really one of the three big things of the month, and so I'm not going to really go into a lot of detail with it again today, but it really is like, looking to bring in more things, bring in more personal growth, expansion, and trying to get some kind of healing both for ourselves and society. But once again, we have to be really careful about falling into the trap of feeling like our values or philosophies are the ones that are correct for everyone, and getting into this arrogant, kind of self-righteous tone about that. But like I said, I talked about that a lot more last week in the monthly, and so go back to that because I want to talk a little bit more about Saturday. There's several things going on Saturday. It's going to make it a really dynamic weekend, actually, next weekend. I think it's going to be a really good weekend for relationships and like just some changes that feel good and feel like they're moving things forward in your life. So first is that we have Venus is conjuncting Eris, still in Aries, and then it will be sextiling Mars. And you actually can see this up in the sky this week if you get a good look, because Venus is that super bright one on the western horizon after dark, and then Mars is kind of like, a little bit up in the midheaven, but a little bit above, heading towards the horizon eventually. So there's exactly 60 degrees between them. Mars is not as bright as it was earlier in the year, but it's right by the star El Nath, which actually, incidentally enough, thinking about that one too, Mars is right now traveling between the horns of the bull in Taurus. So when you look up at Mars in the sky right now, it's between El Nath and I can't remember the name of the other star, but they're the horns of the bull of Taurus. Okay, so it's like El Nath is the brighter one, and that represents a really tough part of the sky. Now remember, Mars is what? The god of war, right? And the god of agriculture too. So Taurus is like, an agricultural sign, so that's good. But the star El Nath is a very intense star on the horn of the bull. It represents weaponry, like a sword or a spear, like a piercing kind of energy. And the question with the star El Nath always is, where is its kind of morals falling with the use of that weaponry? Is it for the good, or is it for, Mars kind of like egotistical, defensive, old school energy? So this is like a really trying time for people, all of us, and society, while Mars is between the horns of the bull. This is a time when people can easily misuse the power and weaponry they have in blind, impulsive action. So it's not good for things like war. Like, the thing between Russia and Ukraine is probably gonna stay pretty darn intense while Mars is between the horns of the bull, And this is the kind of stuff the old astrologers from, Babylon, before there was even a zodiac, this is the kind of stuff they noticed. So, that when Mars is between the horns of the bull, it's a very difficult time for nations who are, that you're enemies with, that, it's usually an open warfare time with your enemies. And it's also a very dangerous time for the leaders of those nations, possibly to be, assassinated, killed back in those days, killed in battle, or something like that, so it's a very, very tenuous time with that Mars. But anyway, let me get back to Saturday. I sidetracked there. I didn't even have that written down. See, that's part of my notes for the blog this week. That kind of was something I just saw up in the sky and remembered, what that all meant last night. Actually, had a nice clear sky. So anyway, Venus conjunct Eris and sextile Mars, working together. Same day, Mercury sextile Uranus. It's very interesting energy. This is really good energy for relationships, for changes that come through relationships. For older relationships, it can be like new starts, new opportunities, new zest into them, new life breathed into them, new things to do, new experiences that kind of shake it up and bring it to a new place. And for otherwise, it's really great for new relationships. And it may be kind of shocking, it may be a relationship that comes out of the blue, out of nowhere, or maybe it's not so much out of the blue, but it's like it goes to another level all of a sudden, and it's very quick and kind of unexpected. So it's there's a lot of creativity in it, and it's great for lovers. It's great romantic energy. So new relationships can be very much romantic in this situation, but it also provides a lot of spark of creativity, maybe new creative endeavors, new people to do creative stuff, new opportunities, maybe even the opportunities to make money by doing some of these things. So it's like, so it's a very dynamic, lively energy, and there's a lot of creativity in it, and it can really spark relationships up or fun. And then the Mercury sextile Uranus, I think at the same time, what happens is when those connections are made, you're going to find this dynamic connection on the creative intellectual level with people too, where you're going to be like sharing a lot of the same ideas. So you're going to get people like get really excited about the connections you're making with others next weekend, because they're stimulating like this higher intellectual energy. It's giving you a lot of perceptions and insights and new ideas that expand, that are, creative on an intellectual level. They're intuitive energy, and a lot of it is good stuff. It's stuff that will stick, and also like the ability to use like technology and science and things like that to help push some of those energies out. Like if you want to communicate them out, those are ways to do that. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, also next Saturday, that Juno again, that same one, the partnerships that I talked about on the Friday. Remember, Pluto's heading that 30th degree, so square Pluto, that means Juno also in the 30th degree. So on Saturday, the very next day, Juno, which was a lot faster than Pluto because she's in the asteroid belt. Pluto is way the heck out there, the end of the solar system, basically. And so she's moving a lot faster. So she's going into Taurus on Saturday. And that's seeking stability. While Juno goes through Taurus for a few weeks, it's about partnerships again, and it's seeking stability in our partnerships and working to create stability in our partnerships. Now, once again, in older partnerships, this can bring up issues of money and resources, possibly not having enough, things like that, so it can be an issue in older relationships. So, all right, well, that's what I got for this week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is a free service that I offer every week on YouTube. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower, and don't forget to turn on your notifications, and they'll let you know when I post it every week. And remember, best thing you guys can do for me to repay me is to, right now as you sign off, there's a lot of people in your phone that are in your contacts, and I'm sure there's someone you still haven't passed the blog on to. If you have before, that you can pass it on to this week. And if you haven't ever done that yet, please do that. Or if you're a new listener, please pass the blog on to someone else, and that you think might be interested in it. I really appreciate that. Remember, over 50% of the world now believes in astrology, so there's a lot of people out there who might be interested in hearing the blog. And of course, the other best way to support me is by getting readings from me. I am a professional astrologer, so that you can contact me about that through my email, matthuey823@gmail.com. Oh, and by the way, the blog is also available, like I said at the beginning, on podcasts too. It's in the top 50% of podcasts. So, once again, help me keep getting it growing. It's on a bunch of different podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel. It gives you a lot more freedom in when you want to hear or listen to the blog, and you really don't have to see the screen right now. I am going to try to make some adaptations to the screen soon. I'm trying to get some help out there, some people coaching me along, so I'll try to get some of that working and up in the next few weeks on the blog. But also, if you have Instagram, Astrological Winds channel is on Instagram. I post the link. I don't think I'm doing it quite right, but you can still type in the link and get to the YouTube connection on it. But I'm going to try to patch that up soon too. And even more importantly, sometimes during the week, I may get on there and make some comments just in written form about certain days where maybe the moon's really active or other things that I didn't have time to put in the weekly. So, and that's always just a little comment. It's never video or audio, so you can just read it within, like, a few seconds and get a little more of a download for that day. And then I also have the link posted on my private Facebook account, which I use only for astrology, so don't expect me to social mediaize with you otherwise on it. But you can friend me. It's Matthew at 2T's and Lawton, Lauten. If you'd like to give a donation to the blog, please do so. And once again, you can use my Venmo. It's the symbol at, and then Matthew again with a capital M, so it's Matthew, then a hyphen in the middle, and capital Lauten. And and then if you, best way to help me out is to get a reading. Definitely appreciate people who have been getting readings from the blog recently. That's really good to see people wanting from the blog wanting to get readings too. Appreciate that. And just drop me an email. I do natal charts. I really suggest you get that done, or if you've never had it done well or by a professional astrologer, get that done right away, because you carry that around with you all your life, and you really need to know how your energy is working to have the most self-empowerment in your life. And then every year around your birthday, I highly recommend getting a predictive reading, which is your weather report for the next year, so you can see the main challenges that you're going to have the next year and see how things can, you can work with those things and make it a little bit easier for your life. Also relationships, if you're in a new relationship, you're interested in what brought you together. If you're in an older relationship, you want to look at the relationship chart, the stuff that you're going through in that chart. Do that. Children's charts, if you want to look at, really helpful for how to, react with your kid and bring out their talents and know how to interact with them in the most effective way, communicate with them. And then also the bigger events of their first 20 years of their life, and look all at that. Relocation astrology, astrocartography. If you're looking to move somewhere else, we can look and see how your chart's going to change, what that'll bring up. Or even if you're looking in a general way to find out where there's strengths or weaknesses in different parts of the world, where the planetary line sign, we can do that. Horary charts, if you're looking for an answer to some burning question you just can't seem to get an answer or decision on, we can look at a chart, see if we get something out of that. Also, an answer out of that is in an election charts for when you need to time a really important event and try to get the energy as much on your side as you can, like a wedding or starting a business. Fixed star readings are great for just people who already know their natal chart and really want to get even deeper. That Mars Elna thing I was just telling you guys about with the Mars in between the horns of the bull. That's a perfect example of the depth of a fixed star reading and what that can bring in. So all right, well, that's what I got. Oh yeah, and classes, beginning classes, they're available on Dropbox, $25 a class, or 5 for 100, or if you're a student, 20 a piece. And also I'm available for lectures, question and answers, sessions, classes, mini readings, kind of entertainment stuff for your group's event. All those things, you got to email me, matthure823@gmail.com. That's matthure823@gmail.com. All right, time for that full moon in Virgo week, and I'll see you guys all next week.